Our lesson for today will be looking at Chemistry 1502. We'll be looking at the introduction of alcohols, lesson 101. Let us start. Alcohols are one of the functional groups that we need to discuss, and this is an introduction of alcohols. Looking at the basic explanation of alcohols, you should know that alcohols are compounds which they have an hydroxy group. Hydroxy group is OH. So the moment you see OH in a molecule or a structure, you should know that it belongs to alcohols. Now, alcohols are classified into three different types of alcohols. But before we get there, an example of an alcohol would be this. Then looking at the structure, this is methanol. Another type of an alcohol would be CH3CH2OH. Another type would be CH3CH3OH. So you can see all these compounds, they have an hydroxy group, which we say they belong to alcohols as a functional group. If you can differentiate types of alkyl halides from halides, remember that we've discussed the different types of halides, and then we specifically went into detail talking about the alkyl halides. If you understood the primary, secondary, and tertiary alkyl halides, it should be very simple for you to identify or be able to indicate what type of an alcohol that we have. You should know that we have different types of alcohols. We have primary, secondary, and tertiary alcohol, and furthermore we have the phenols and also the enols. Now, in order for you to identify the type of alcohol we have, you have to check the carbonyl carbon atom, which is the carbon that is attached to the hydroxy group or OH. Then you should be able to know which type of alcohol we have. If bonded to one carbon, you should know that, talking about the carbon that is bonded to the hydroxy group is also bonded to one other carbon, you should know that it belongs to the primary. Then if it is bonded to a carbon which it is bonded to two other carbons, it belongs to secondary. Then looking at the very same carbon that is bonded to the hydroxy group, if it is bonded to three other carbons, you should know that it belongs to the tertiary. Then the phenols is the compound with hydroxy group bonded directly to the aromatic or benzene ring. Let us look at the example of the primary alcohol. So we look at carbon. If that carbon it is bonded to another carbon, remember that we look at the carbonyl carbon. The carbonyl carbon is the carbon which is bonded to the hydroxy group. In this case, this is our carbonyl carbon. In this case, you can see that this carbon it is bonded to only other one carbon. Therefore, this is a primary alcohol. We might have a chain or a very long chain, but we look at the carbonyl carbon. In this case is this one. Then you can see that it is bonded to only one other carbon, therefore it belongs to the primary alcohol. If you remember the alkyl halides, it will be very simple for you to understand this. Secondary alcohols, we check the carbonyl carbon. If it is bonded to two other carbons, then it is a secondary alcohol. In this case, the carbonyl carbon, it's this one. So you can see it is bonded to two other carbons, therefore it belongs to the secondary alcohols. Let's say we have this. Our hydroxy group, it's actually here. Then you can clearly see that the carbonyl carbon is this one. It is bonded to two other carbons. Then this is our hydroxy group. It also belongs to the secondary alcohols. And looking at the skeletal structure, so we have something like this. Then for this one, this would be our two other carbons. Then this is the carbonyl carbon. And then for tertiary, we know very well that we have, remember the alkyl halides, if the carbon that is bonded to the halide, it is bonded to three other carbons, then we say it is a tertiary alkyl halide. So in this case, the carbonyl carbon, if it is bonded to three other carbons, then we say it is a tertiary alcohol. So this is the carbonyl carbon that we have. Then these are the other three carbons that we have. Then this is our hydroxy group. And then we have the phenols. A phenol, it involves a benzene. A benzene is a specific ring that has 6 carbons. Remember benzene. The name, it ends with E and E. So it means that it's a specific ring that has double bonds within that particular ring. It's also known as an aromatic. It's a benzene ring that has double bonds and it has 6 carbons. So in this case, if the hydroxy group is attached to the benzene or an aromatic ring, it is called a phenol. Now the question is, this type of an alcohol, does it belong to the primary, secondary, or tertiary? Let us look at the carbonyl carbon, which is this one. You can see it is bonded to 2 other carbons. And remember that this, it is not a phenol. It is not a benzene. So is it a phenol or a secondary alcohol? In this case, this is a secondary alcohol. Now the last concept that I want us to talk about is enols. Enols are molecules which has hydroxyl group directly bonded to an alkene. So let's say we have something like this. This is an enol. Enols are actually derived from ketones. It's another functional group that we will cover as we are busy with this series. Another type of enol now the question is, if we put this double bond here instead of here, is it an enol? No, it is not. Remember that it must be bonded directly to the alkene. So it is just next to the carbon that has the double bond. I'm talking about the hydroxy group. That's it for this lesson video. This is Wahula SJ. Thank you very much.